All right, well, welcome everyone to the January 10th Oshkosh Advisory Park Board meeting. We have a few things to go through tonight, and I'll call the meeting to order. Stacy, roll call.
All right, Lauren Bartelt.
She's currently buffering, so she's here.
All right, Amy Davis.
Here.
Tony Dirth.
Here.
Scott Groyle.
Here.
Deb Martin.
Here.
Becky Metz. Lester Millette.
Here.
Lori Palmieri.
Here.
Thank you.
Called Joe and Colby as well. Stacy.
Oh, sorry. Joe Stevenson.
Here.
And Colby Schellinger.
Here.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. We need to do any questions or comments about December 6 minutes?
Nope.
Move to approve December 6 minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call on the approval for the minutes. Bartelt.
Looks like she's still buffering. She might be trying to get back in.
Okay. Davis.
Aye.
Dirth.
Aye.
Royal.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Metz.
Aye.
Millette.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
And Stevenson.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe, you won't be voting because Deb is here. I apologize. But if we do have to vote at any point in time, Joe, it is up to you.
Okay, sounds good.
He's sitting in for Devin, though.
Devin. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
Yep. So you are voting, Joe.
You are still voting, Joe.
And it looks like did we lose Lauren?
She's probably trying to log back in. She was buffering there for a while.
If she's unable to participate, do we
Still have a quorum.
Colby fill in?
We what? I'm sorry.
If Lauren's unable to participate, do we have Colby fill in?
Yeah, until she gets here, that'd be fine. She is just showing up, so she must be logging in again. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, sorry about that.
That's okay. Lauren, there was a motion and a second to approve the December 6th minutes. Do you approve that?
Yes.
Oh, she froze up again. There you go. Lauren, maybe turn your video off. That might help you as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
I said yes. Mhm.
Okay, Amy.
All right. Well, before we start, we have public comment on agenda items and then old business and new business. Do we want to do public comments separately or just have comments made during our discussion? And this is kind of out to the board. What would your preference be?
I know there will be public comment most likely for items 1 and 2 if the Pickards come back. So it's up to the board if you'd like it during the agenda item as well.
Yes, I like it during what we're discussing.
Okay. All right, then we will move to the first item on our agenda, and that's providing input to staff on the type of sign for the Chief Oshkosh Monument area. And Ray did include both types in the packet. So Ray, do you have anything else you want to say before we continue?
Yeah, I think what I'll do for the public and anybody at home who has not seen the memo that was in the packet, I'll go through that just to give a little background on this item and get you up to speed on where we're at. At the August 9th, 2021 meeting, the Advisory Park Board discussed the Chief Oshkosh project and supported the project moving forward. On November 9th, 2021, the Common Council approved the project, including the final verbiage for each sign. Since then, there's been some discussion about the type of signs to be used for the project. As city staff, we are suggesting that the same type of signage that we have along the Riverwalk, the history signs that we have along there, for uniformity as well as for accessibility and readability for individuals in wheelchairs. These signs are installed at a lower height with the bottom of the sign approximately 32 inches above the ground and then angled upward. And I'll pull up a photo of that real quickly. I got to share my screen. I apologize. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So these are the signs that we have along the Riverwalk, just so that the board and the public are aware. Again, for us, it's really about accessibility. And then there is some discussion by some of the Menomonee Indian tribe of Wisconsin are suggesting some of the bronze plaque signs that you should see on the screen now. I'll give you a full screen. And this is really a sample similar to what they would like to see there as well. These signs would be printed on both sides. And as I indicated in the memo, signs of this type, this sign is actually out in front of AC Davis along Oshkosh Avenue. I went out and measured the bottom of that sign is actually at about 5 feet above the ground. And then the signs itself, based on the number of words and characters, would be probably 3 feet tall. So we're looking at a sign being 5 to 8 feet up in the air. Again, assuming the sign is 8 or 3 feet tall. For us, that's a little more difficult for individuals in wheelchairs to be able to read that high up in the air. Whichever sign type is decided upon, we'll be pouring concrete pads on the outside perimeter of the existing walkway. I'll pull that up so you really can see that. Here's the site. So you can see the existing walkway, which goes all the way around the site. We'll be pouring concrete on the outside perimeter of the walkway for whichever sign would go up, if it's the bronze sign or the historic signs we have along the Riverwalk. And the reasoning for that is, again, for accessibility, we need to make sure that individuals in walkers, wheelchairs, whatever it might be, are able to maneuver around the sign to make sure that they can read it. There are 5 independent signs that would be placed according to the input that we have received from the Menomonee Indian Tribe of Wisconsin. Just to give you some kind of a cost estimate, we're estimating the signs similar to like we have on the Riverwalk. The signs plus shipping and concrete would be approximately $10,000. If we decided to go with the bronze post-mounted signs, we're estimating that to be $20,000 to $25,000. We're not getting too far into the financial side. That's things that the city would need to figure out. But we have received a $5,000 donation a few years back for this project, and that funding is still available. There could potentially be some funding available and requested from the Great Neighborhood Funds through our planning division. And the memo I included in your packet from the Menomonee Tribe of Wisconsin has indicated that they're willing to donate $5,000 if the bronze sign option is decided upon, and a member of their tribal legislature is allowed to assist in the placement and final design of the signs. I'll stop sharing my screen unless you want to see any of those signs again. I'll just quickly go back to them here.
Ray, just a question. Do you guys have any kind of schematic to show what the layout would be? Or I guess what the positioning would be of either type of sign outside that perimeter?
Basically, what we would be doing is placing them according to the wishes of the tribe,
Okay.
and pouring the concrete. The concrete slab on the backside is going to be approximately, for either sign, anywhere from probably 7 to 10 feet wide and about 6 feet deep, so that a wheelchair can exit from the existing perimeter walk onto the pad and read and see the signs. So here's the again, the layout, and here's the bronze type sign, and then the historic sign.
Ray, this is Deb. Can I ask a question about the bronze?
Yes.
You said it was, the post was about 5 feet tall and then three more feet approximately. What is that post made of?
Steel post.
Okay, so there's no option to have it be shorter than 5 feet. That's just a standard 5 feet? Because you said it's 8 feet tall then.
We could make the post a different size. However, you need to understand that the lower you make it on the post, if we go down to 3 feet and you're standing in front of the sign reading it, it's pretty awkward when somebody is standing there looking down at almost to your knee height, I guess. So,
Oh, sure. No, I was
so
thinking
that-
more like 5 or 6 feet, 5 or 6 as opposed to 8. That's all.
well, the bottom of that sign was 5 feet. So the very bottom of the sign.
Okay, okay. So that's what you're saying. You can't go. Okay, thank you.
Correct. Yep. And then the sign itself will be about 3 feet tall. So it'll go from about 5 to 8 feet up in the air.
I know beauty is probably in the eye of the beholder, but I really don't like the bronze sign. I think the fishing in Oshkosh sign, it looks a little bit sharper, and it actually kind of has some, like, it feels like a sign we would put in the museum. I was a former museum board member, and it looks like something we would use in like museum grade explanations.
That's funny because I like the bronze one a
Yeah.
lot. I think it looks sharp.
I think the bronze one fits better with the statue, and that's what the tribe said as well, which is why they're willing to donate money towards it.
Amy, do you want to have David and I think it was Pershing, correct? From the tribe, if they wanted to present some of their information?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, I would just, thank you. Also, everybody, I'd just like to mention, I got Arnold, he was unable to get on a link. And I got Arnold Chevalier on, he's listening to the conversation. And at some point, if he's able to comment, I think he can through my phone. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Pershing Frechette. I'm the individual referenced in the letter that they tasked me with. If you agreed to having our participation, they tasked me with working with you guys on a placement of the sign, but I would defer to Dave right now and let him speak in regards to the preference of the bronze and the placing. Go on in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Something wrong with my video, so yeah. As we met with our committee and gave information to the Menomonee Tribal Legislature what we wanted. And what we want is the bronze signs and to be placed around on the outside of the memorial, the 5 plaques, and perpendicular so people can see them, going and coming. And I believe the bronze signs would last longer, and I think they'd look better, and they would complement the statue of Chief Oshkosh. And we've been meeting and discussing this for a number of years now, and we finally got to a point now where we decided that from the Menomonee tribe's standpoint, that's what we want is the brown signs.
I'm sorry, Pershing and David, can you give your address just for the record so that Stacy can have that as well?
Thank you.
My address is W 2255 Joe Summers Road,
Keshena, Wisconsin, 54135.
Thank you.
And mine is N3456 White Avenue, Neopit, Neopit, Wisconsin, 54150. God's country.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So Ray, sorry, why did you say a lower bronze sign would not work? Like if it was, 3 feet?
Because imagine if you walk up to a sign and the top of the sign is then at about your eye level and you're looking down 3 feet to roughly maybe your knees or mid thigh and reading, it would be different and an unusual height for a sign of that type.
Ray, aren't there some bronze sign examples on that SUA Studios website that are a little more horizontal than they are elongated?
There are, but again, it's really how far down. And the ones along the Riverwalk, like I said, they may start at 32 inches, but then they angle up in the back so that when you walk up to them, you can read them. When it's vertical or perpendicular, it is still difficult to read if it's down at 3 foot level, basically. So yes, there are different ones out there, but again, it would be different if the bottom was at 3 foot and it was angled similar to the ones along the Riverwalk, which makes it easier to read and understand versus a vertical sign that I think is very awkward at that position. And let me be clear, the material, the type of sign, we just want to move this project forward, but we want to have your input as the advisory board for citizens on a consensus or an input on which ones that you'd like to see move forward. So I understand both David and Mr. Pershing's opinions and understand that as well. But there's two different signs. So that's why we're back here to the board.
So
Is
why?
I'm sorry, is there a possibility of the Riverwalk angled positioning, but with bronze? With the
That's exactly what
shorter
I was going to
posts?
say.
Oh, well, great minds think alike.
I'm sure there is, but the reason I believe they would like the bronze signs is because of the amount of verbiage so that it could be shown on both sides. If we're looking at doing something that in the bronze one-sided, I did not get an estimate on that. And it would most likely change the cost because the sign is getting much larger because you're not going to have the two sides of what the original or the example shown was.
Ray, what is I was mentioned I heard about like the longevity of the signs. Are you able to speak to that? And then I'm also they mentioned other maybe locations of the bronze signs. Are you aware of any other signs like citywide that like other departments, what kind of signs they use for these kind of things? What Joe said about the museums that kind of struck me too, like the design. So longevity and then other types of signs around the city.
Sure. The signs they have a 10-year warranty from the company, and the company actually, they do a lot of these signs for the national parks. And so in speaking with the company, they said, we have a 10-year guarantee. We have these out in the field where they've lasted 15, 20 plus years. It'll come down to the environment, if they're in direct sunlight or not. Some of those things would come into play. But from what we're hearing from the sign company, there should be no reason why we can't get 20 years plus potentially. Yes, the bronze sign, I would say, is it's going to last longer. You're looking at probably 20 to 30 years before you need to have some cleaning up of the sign and some updating, or not updating the sign, just polishing and cleaning of the sign to be done with it. As far as other uses, let me just step back a little bit. When you touched on the museum feeling of those signs, we actually worked directly with the museum staff on those historic signs, and we utilized a lot of the standards and the heights and elevations that they do use for their exhibits. So Joe, you were right on by saying, it was more of a museum feel. That's exactly what we would do with these as well, whichever signs we would go with. But those signs are also used like with some of our stormwater management ponds as educational signs around the city. Our engineering staff contacted us to find out which company we use for the historic signs, and they are actually working with that same company on some of those signs around the stormwater ponds throughout the city.
Okay. Well, and actually that makes sense because if you're asking our opinion, which I think that you are, I really like the historic signs from as a father of a 6-year-old and 8-year-old. They get a kick out of going up and walking and kind of like having those signs in front of them. And so I always enjoy the opportunity for them to learn. And I think it's accessible to them. I know you mentioned wheelchair accessibility too, but as far as that's where when you said about the stormwater stuff, there's one on New York that every time we walk by there, they stop and are looking at it. And I think that it seems like as far as accessibility and education, all that kind of stuff, I like that kind of sign better from that's just my opinion.
If I may.
Amy, do you want to take over and ask people to raise hands, I guess, just so you can take control of the meeting?
Pershing just did, yeah.
Yep. So please raise your hand when you want to speak, and then Stacy will call on you.
Well, I won't be able to see them raising their hands, Amy. That's the only downfall. I don't have that many.
Pershing, I saw your hand. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry.
Yeah, I
Thank
don't either.
you. Thank you. I did defer to Dave. I wanted him to speak first. And first of all, I'd like to say, Wawanan, and thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight in support of the bronze signs. I've listened to the comments and everything, and it's my opinion that, and it's just that, my opinion, that these bronze signs, we could do exactly what we would want to do with the plastic or whatever the other option was. The only difference would be if we did them at an angle like the plastic ones, we wouldn't be able to capture the double-sided option. But I did want to mention there are bronze signs that go back since I was a kid, and all I'll say is I'm older than 50. But there's bronze signs that cars drive up to, that I've seen people walk up to, that I've seen people wheelchair up to, and they were able to read the whole signs, historical marker signs, bronze signs, with no problem. So I think if we were to get a request, which is obviously the bronze signs, for a number of reasons, I think we could work that out. We could work through it. And that was why in the letter drafted and talked over by the entire legislature, they wanted me appointed because I was in this whole conversation and process longer than any of the other individual legislators. And I would work with the compromising on getting this done. So again, we appreciate the consideration. It's clear what we want, and we understand that decision is with this board. But through this whole process, it was really challenging. There was some ups and downs, and I heard some really good things from some really good people on the different committees. The one thing that stood out the most with me was atonement for the Menomonee people, for the things that they felt they needed to show. So this would be one of them. This would be working with us, respecting our wishes, and honoring Chief Oshkosh the way we see fit. So I hope you don't misunderstand that we're trying to push something down your throats here. We just want to be heard, and we want to work with you to make the best possible option for everybody, whether that be wheelchair handicap in any way, children, adults, somebody 7 foot, somebody 3 foot. I think we can work that out. And I believe down the road, we'd also be willing to help with the maintenance of these signs. I don't want this relationship to end here. I want that relationship to be for the next 7 generations. So our children can work with the people from the city of Oshkosh also. So I'll say about that much and close with saying we're wanting for hearing us out here today. And I would really appreciate it if this board would choose the option of the brown signs. Let us work towards getting that done. Lannon.
I'd like
So
to say,
purging,
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, David.
Uso nech, Menomonee ka kikita may mos. Ta mochis na to yung, na mi tiyo ko to yung, saya, Oshkosh. Uki mau ko Menomonee, ukana mau shope. Now,
Oh,
we talking about Chief Oshkosh now. He was a statesman. He was a negotiator. Sometimes he wasn't well liked in treaty negotiations because he stood firm, wanting the best for the Menomonee people. And when we started meeting on this some years back, we were asked to write a history about Chief Oshkosh, and we did. We helped some help doing that with people that did help us do this, but we provided the necessary history to them. And we had Pascal Manning and Arnold Chevalier, and not recently, but Mr. Fichette, Pershing. And we met, the council came up to the Menomonee Museum a couple times. And we met with the mayor at the time, and we wanted to make this right. His legacy was not only giving his name to the city of Oshkosh. There's a lot of things that he did. And as our descendants and tribal members, I think his legacy is us. And we want to convey that to the public, of which is going to happen, the correct history of the Menomonee people in the area of Oshkosh. And historically, we have sites along Lake Winnebago that go back thousands of years. One of them was at Oshkosh, at Menomonee Park, proven by archaeological documentation and historical facts. And about the signs, the State Historical Society has bronze signs all over the state. And a lot of these you can, they're placed in certain places. There's one going into the Menomonee Reservation, talking about the reservation as you enter. There's one at Spirit Rock on Highway 55, going to the reservation. And there's a number of them. And there's the 1836 treaty, one at Little Chute. And those go right to the ground. I mean, they're placed as such that anybody can see those. And if we could do something like that, and, you know, there's compromise, just like Oshkosh he had to do. He had to compromise sometimes. He had to talk to our people and say, well, maybe I'll accept this deal, but I really don't really want to, but I think I have to do it for the good of the Menomonee people. And this is what we're trying to do, just try to follow his footsteps and negotiating and cooperating and collaborating. And like Pershing had said, you know, it's something that we want to continue, get this right and collaborate and provide some funding and maybe maintenance in the future. I think that's the way we should go.
So,
Becky, go ahead.
so Pershing, were you saying that you would be okay with having the signs lower and horizontal? Like horizontal but angled, like the other signs?
I think whatever we need to do to make this work, I think but I think there's a number of options, as Dave mentioned, the Spirit Rock, that was one that I was referring to. And it's been with the Menomonee people on Highway 55 for years, as long as I can remember. I remembered stories and the legend of Spirit Rock and everything. So I'm willing to work with whoever's going to be erecting these signs so it works for everybody. And that might not be the option, but yes, if that's what it ends up being, sure. But
So this may be a dumb question, but Ray said that there's too much information to have the horizontal angled because they're only one-sided. But is there an option to scale down the amount of verbiage?
We're not, Becky, we're
that-
not, we're not here to discuss that tonight. It's talking about the type of.
that was a
That is-
long battle.
Pershing, I won't even let us get into that because that, no, Becky, that's not an
Thank
option.
you. Thank you. But
Well, it's discussing the sign.
It's not,
yeah,
the verbiage has been approved by the council in the Menomonee Nation, so we're not gonna go back to the verbiage, sorry. So,
and I appreciate that because it was hard to say as much as we had in that limited space already. But we do prefer to double-sided, and there's other options. There's signs that rotate, bronze signs that rotate. There's different options that I think we need to at least explore. And I think the maintenance part and the longevity, complementing the statue are all the ones that are important to us. But just so that we're able to get the big lettering clearly understandable, get the story out there. I'm willing to work with, as assigned, with whoever on, again, our preference is the bronze.
I saw Lori, I'm sorry, Stacy, I'll jump in for you. Mayor Paul Mary.
Just a kind of a placement question and orientation. There was something that I had read, and I know there were some questions about if the vertical two-sided perpendicular were not placed, and we had the museum historic horizontal, that there's verbiage specifically about some of the cardinal directions referenced in some of the signs. And I guess I'm trying to visualize, and that's why I was hoping that there would be a little bit of a schematic to look at. is it thought that the horizontal signs would also be perpendicular, meaning, you know, kind of going straight out from the circle? How would that work in those cases?
Sure, we'd pour the concrete slab behind the perimeter walk. We'd mount, if it were the historic signs that we have along the Riverwalk, we would mount it so that the back, basically the angled backside of the sign is facing the statue, the monument. So people are they're reading the sign and looking at the monument or whatever landmark. Does that explain it good enough? So the back of the sign is at the backside of the perimeter walk.
So it's almost like there would be another ring
Not
around.
another ring, it'd be a concrete pad, so pedestrians, wheelchairs could get around and
Okay.
then read the sign as they're looking at the monument. And
I
then
understand. Okay.
if they were the two-sided bronze, again, it would be a concrete pad. They would be placed perpendicular so that essentially it's perpendicular to the path instead of you're not looking at the monument when you're reading it.
Well, I'd just like to say that I really appreciate the tribal legislature being willing to, you know, add to the significant donation in that effort. And I'll defer to other Parks Board members.
Amy, I thought you had your hand up.
Okay, Ray, I have a question for you. So we're saying we're gonna have five, if the bronze were chosen, we'll have 5 of those signs on both and verbiage on both sides. So basically like 10 sides of reading.
Correct.
Okay. And then Pershing, I was curious as to why. I understand what you like about the bronze, but what don't you like about the historical museum look?
It's not that I don't like them. I just think the bronze complement the statue and everything a lot more. I think they're more solid. They're more appealing visually. And them are the ones them are similar to the ones that I was referring to. I'm getting repetitive, but the ones I was referring to earlier, where I know the ones that I'm referring to were not an issue with handicap accessibility. And there was one actually in particular where cars drove up. So you would be seated in your car and you could read the whole sign, you could get it. So I know there's a way to get this done, but to answer your question, they're just more appealing. And when we as a legislature sat down and we looked at everything, there was just something plain about the plastic and how long before we'd be replacing these or whatever. So that was what we ultimately agreed we would push for, the 8 legislators that were at the table. I hope that answered your question.
It does.
That's a good example.
And that's something I did not get a cost estimate for. Just looking at the size of it, I don't know the size, but I'm guessing, Lori, I can't see it. It's all just, I can see the sign itself, yes. Again, I haven't gotten a cost estimate for something like that, but we would still need to make sure that it's accessible for people to be able to wheel a wheelchair up to it.
One more thing I'd like to add. I'm sitting in the office at a lumber mill that I work at. We would definitely be willing to supply any of the posts or poles or whatever's needed. I'm certain that I can get that approval for this process if that's gonna sweeten the deal, so to speak. The ones that Lori put up showed her on treated poles, and the ones I was referring to, them poles after being treated, they lasted forever, and they're still there. They're still in these spots. So these are things that I think we can work out once we decide and get the approval of the bronze. Thank you.
And that was from the Treaty of the Cedars site in Little Chute.
Yes.
That I pulled up the photo of.
Does
I
anyone
just
else-
had a question real
Oh, thank
quick. And I don't, this is definitely, I just more curious, and as you guys mentioned partnership, and I think that's really important as you go through this whole process, is that the input that you're providing is incredibly valuable. When you talk about the partnership, there's money on the line, whether there's a donation, like which sign is going to be used and all that kind of stuff. I'm just curious if the other sign is chosen for whatever reason, how does that affect what you all are asking for? Because I want to make sure that the relationship is still sound, but I just want to know if the others, for whatever reason, where do you guys stand if the other sign is chosen?
The relationship would continue. I can say that my involvement would be there. Now I'm finishing up my term and I chose not to run for re-election. But I will follow through with this. This was an assignment that I would give, that I was given, and I would follow through with it regardless. But the decision of the legislative body was the donation was with the stipulation that the bronze were chosen because we did know there was going to be more cost there. And that was what was decided. So as far as the relationship, I'll follow this through. I'll be there. You heard me earlier. I want this relationship to continue, as we say, into the next 7 generations. I want our children to be talking to each other. So that's the way I see it.
Deb, I see your hands up, but I also noticed Lester had his hand up here. So Lester, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So I guess hearing what you're saying, Pershing, is the reason wanting to have the bronze sign, and that's what your group decided on. I know Ray staff has suggested that the historical sign, they like the historical sign. What were the reasons behind that? Was it the view of being able to read the sign and look up at the statues? I mean, what was the leaning towards that? And are we just looking at what we prefer, what sign we think looks better, or I like the look of the historical sign myself. I think they look I think they look nice, and the way they're set up, you can be reading it and looking at the statue as you go along. But I just wanted to know what was the suggestion from staff, why they like that sign.
We'll add in for that, Lester. Appreciate the question.
Can I answer? I think he was asking me
Okay.
on the historian, and then we can come back to
Okay.
Lester, for staff. We're looking at it, uniformity. We've worked with the company well. I think as you lay out the sign, there's an opportunity to include potentially more pictures or more visuals to the sign as well. The mounting height, obviously for us, we're working through inclusion and ADA and want to make sure that it's an inclusive as possible. And I understand there's other signs throughout the state where they've been up for 50 years, but as a community, we also need to look at where we mount things to make sure that we're doing our best to make sure that they're accommodating and accessible. And if you take a look at that one out in front of AC Childcare, actually they have crushed granite coming off the back of the sidewalk in a radii about 3 feet or 4 feet around the sign, so people can have access instead of just walking onto the surface or the grass. So again, uniformity, Lester, and a couple of those reasons that I had mentioned. And I think the other, we don't know exactly where all the funding is going to come from. And, we have some funding that's been talked about. When I called the sign company to get the cost estimate for a sign that's about the 2x3, that was the cost estimate per sign that I'm giving you. If we're looking at making it potentially twice the size, because the verbiage has to be on one side. My guess is the project cost may double, and until I get the sign design to them, I don't have a number for that. But you're looking at having twice the material potentially instead of a two-sided sign.
Mm-hmm. And I will have to say, I mean, I've done the tour up and down the Mississippi River, and they have pullovers with those kind of historical signs that you can just sit and look out on the river and have all that information in front of you, but they have pictures along with it, which I think really adds to the history and actually learning about about what's happening. So, thanks for the information.
Sure. Persian, did you have something that you wanted to, before I explained to Lester's comments? Or?
Yeah, and I apologize. Lester, I thought the question was directed at what our council thought, and that's kind of why I was going to try to answer. So, my apologies.
Nope, that's okay. Deb, you had it, and then Joe, I see you've got a hand too. So go ahead, Deb. You're muted, Deb.
I wanted to ask about calling the question or making a motion. I just think the council has been, the tribal council has been working with the city, with people in Oshkosh for over 5 years. And that's just incredible to me that we can't now honor, we got the verbiage passed that we can't, I want to honor their wishes to have the bronze. I think it does look good with the statue. Yes, those other newer signage in different locations, fine. I support that. But we're not talking about a newer location. We're talking about Chief Oshkosh, which has been here, the statue for decades, and keeping something that fits with that particular monument. So can I make a motion to, or not? We're
This
not
is
there.
not on here for action. It's actually giving us input. So,
Oh, okay.
But
Sorry.
I'll go around. I'm making notes of your preference. So we'll go around and you'll be able to share that. I'll make your note as preference for the bronze, Deb, though. Joe, I think you were next. I'm sorry.
I was just, I thought there was action that needed to be taken on this too. I was going to say something similar, but I mean, I certainly respect the Menomonee's position on this. While I do like the kind of historic sign look, and I think it does have the ability to tell that story better. It's better for ADA. I like Deb said, I don't want to jeopardize the, I think, relationship between the two. So, I mean, if it came down to a vote, I think I would defer to what the Menomonee want.
Any other board members want to? Scott, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say, Dave and Pershing, I certainly appreciate all of your comments and your views and respect all the things that you said and the group that you are representing, as well as making this very difficult. If we're talking about my preferences, I do prefer the historical signs that are consistent with the Riverwalk, and hopefully you can accept that in the spirit of compromise as well. I just think it adds to uniformity, and I think the areas that they would be displayed have the real potential for being a high traffic area for pedestrians, and so the accessibility issue and the probably better ability to see and read something that's very visually pleasing, I think is better suited with the signs that are consistent along the Riverwalk.
Lester, can I just go back to you? Did you voice a preference?
Yeah, I think if we were talking about just the looks of it, I think the looks for the historical sign, I prefer the historical looks, but the same as Joe and Deb, if if the relationship with the Menomonee, I don't kind of Joe said it's kind of the way I expect. I agree with Joe on that, with his acceptance of going with what the Menomonee would like to do. But if you're just asking looks of it, I think the looks of the historical sign, I like them better. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, I was just looking, Lauren, if you're still here, do you wanna voice any preference?
Yeah, I think that, the point of allowing the Menomonee to have their input and have the signs in the way that they approve of. And I was hearing, though, that they are open to compromise and agree that accessibility is important. So I don't know if more discussion can be had around what a potential compromise could look like. But I would agree to defer to what they would like.
All right, I'm just going through my list here real quick. Becky, do you want to provide anything further? I think you had mentioned bronze early on. Is that correct?
Well, I like the looks of that one better, but it's not accessible to the handicap. Yeah, I would say the same as Joe did, basically.
Okay. And then Mayor, I'm going to save you till last, but I'm going to hop to Amy real quick.
I prefer the look of the historical sign. I think it's easier to read, it's accessible, and it's definitely the look I would go for, but I also agree with if this is what the nomination wants and is really set on, I don't want to discount that, which we're not. Just really want to support their vision.
All right, Mayor.
Thank you. This is a difficult one because we have much of the inclusion that is at issue along with the preferences by the tribe. The one thing I would like to, I guess, also add, though, is, the gratitude to the Landmarks Commission for having initiated this project with the tribe. And as Pershing mentioned, excuse me, I've got some family members walking by here, but that the former mayor that he referenced, Mayor Cummings had put a lot of work into this along with that Landmarks Commission. And if you read back through their minutes, quite often they referenced bronze signage as well. And, it is a challenge because we do definitely want accessibility, but I think that accessibility can still be accomplished just in a different way by use of the bronze signs. So I would support the Menomonee's wishes in this particular case.
Okay, I think I heard from everybody.
My notes show that we did.
Okay, well, it's helpful. And like I said, we'll definitely continue to work with the tribe on all of this all the way through, because obviously it's a important project for the city as well as them. So yes, Pershing, I see you got your hand up.
Well, Adam, I guess I was of the understanding that that decision was going to be made here tonight. So what is the process from here? Or is that decision already made, and is it just the input from everybody here tonight, or when
Yep,
when will we know? I probably totally misunderstood. I did think it was going to be a vote and a decision of this board. So
city manager directed. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I apologize for the misunderstanding standing. I mean, again, I appreciate allowing us to have our input and everything, but, yeah, when would we know the decision? And
Yep, I've been asked by the city manager to bring it up for discussion and input here, and then I'll be reporting back to him tomorrow on the discussion and the input and wishes of the board here, so. This week,
so ultimately, who's the decision maker?
I would say the advice of the Parks Board and then the city manager, listening to that and taking their input.
Okay, with that being said, everything I heard here tonight, it looks pretty good, then appreciate it. Thank you.
All right,
It looks like Dave had another comment.
go ahead, David.
No, I just want to thank the board here tonight for listening to us. Like I have to go back again to Chief Oshkosh when he had to go to these treaty negotiations. His thought was always for the Menomonees. And as our head negotiator and speaker. And like I said, there was some hard things he had to decide to convey to the federal agents. And we can't forget that. We got to tell the story of the Menomonee people, indigenous people of Wisconsin, and that's what we're doing. And we're doing it in a good way. And I think the bronze statues will complement the history of our people, the way it was told by the Menomonees that were on this committee. And I hope you see that favorably for us. And once again, I want to say thank you, Luann.
Thank you both.
Luann.
Back to you, Amy.
All right. Thank you for that discussion, everyone. I appreciate everybody's input and comments. And now we move on to the parkland dedicated with the Pickard Estates subdivision, and this will need a recommendation, so we'll discuss and then recommend. Do we have public comment?
I see that Mr. and Mrs. Pickard are here. So if you want me to give an introduction and then I can have them give a little bit of history, that would be good.
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm going to pull up the map of where Pickard Estates is so that the public is aware. And all right, hopefully you can see my screen. So Pickard Estates, this is 9th Street here on the bottom of the page. Clairvale Road, if you can imagine, is off a little bit further to the west. So this is a new subdivision that had gone through the city process. I believe it was back in 2018 when it started. And as part of the subdivision code, based on the number of residential units that will be out here, with the city at that time asked for a dedication of parkland. So you can see that highlighted here. It's an 1.5 acre neighborhood park that will be developed out in Pickard Estates. So as part of that process, I was contacted by the Mr. Pickard, and they had shared some history on the property, and that was included in your packet. I also included page 8 of our gifts, donations, and memorials and non-commercial naming policy so that you should have some idea on what we look at when we consider this. And the Pickard family wanted to be here just to give some of their background on the site. So I will turn it over to Mr. and Mrs. Pickard. If you want to unmute, we can have you speak.
Thank you. I'm not Mrs. Pickard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Paul's sister. My name is Mary Pickard Polashinsky.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm sure Paul doesn't want to be associated with me as his wife. So I just wanted to clarify that first of all. And we want to thank the board for letting us in on this. And we certainly want, as it states in your policy for the city, for the naming, that it's, you take the family's wishes into account first. And that's why we would really like to see this park be named Pickert Park. That's, and as you can see, Ray included a little history of the family and so forth. So I guess if you have any questions of us, we're here to answer them. But my other brother, Robert, is here as well. So it's Paul, Robert, and Mary. Gary.
And then I would just ask, Mary, can I get your address, please?
I live at 2367 Hamilton Street, Oshkosh.
Thank you. And then Paul and Robert, if you choose to speak as well, I will ultimately need your address, please.
I'm Robert. I live at 3490 West 9th Avenue in Oshkosh. And that's just west of, that's probably just east of Clairvale Road intersection.
Thank you.
And I'm Paul. I live at 3420 West 9th Avenue, Oshkosh, obviously. And I'm one of the members of the KP development. So this is, we've been working on this thing for a long time. So that's all I got to say right now. So.
Thank you.
I guess being new to the park board, is there any, have we named parks in recent memory that we had like a, I don't know, just, is there procedure, precedent for something like this?
Looking back, I've been with the city 12 years actually, and since I've been here, we have not. The last one that I could see named potentially after with a family name would be Roe Park. Over by Carl Traeger School, and that was part of a subdivision developed by Mr. Roosh and so forth. So, and since then, we've also had the gift and donation policy developed over the last, probably since 2014 or so, I believe. So that's really guides us on looking at some of these naming of public place areas. So again, I think, you know, looking at the history that the Pickard family had provided, it's looks like the property's been in the Pickard family since 1912.
Ray, can I ask, the memo indicates that the 1.5 acres was dedicated. So was it donated? Or was that a requirement?
It's required as part of the subdivision code. So was the parkland dedicated as part of that process?
I was going to ask something similar. Was the amount of land dedicated as part of that process? Did that meet or exceed, or like the amount that they were required to donate to this process? Like, was it?
It was the amount that they were required as part of their subdivision. Yes.
Gotcha. And just for the record, I think it's really fun looking at the map to the Pickard family, seeing all y'all's first names, introducing yourself on all the little roads on there. So I think that's fun. So.
Well, that was Paul's idea. So.
I guess my other question, Ray, would be, if not Pickard Park, what other park names would the city or the Parks Department consider as options? Because again, I've been on this board a long time. I don't remember talking about this stuff.
Yeah, it's it hasn't happened because the economy really, we haven't growing out where we're adding parkland. So it's been quite some time. In other years, you know, there's processes that you could go through as far as having school groups potentially come up with names as some type of a contest. We would, in the past, I would take a look at, again, the history of the property. If there's something associated with that property or something nearby, consider that for the naming. So whether that would be Pickard or something out in that area, you know, we would take a look at something geological or geographical to see if something would fit the property as well. So there's a couple different ways. But again, because it's a request that came from the family, I thought this was a good process at this point. Amy, you want to take over?
All right. Well, I was gonna say I support the name of Pickard Park at Pickard Estates, and having the, you know, in the land for the last 100 years and honoring our agricultural background. I think that I think it's a good name.
Scott's raising his hand.
I'll just say I support it as well. I think the long generational history of that family on that site, and as Amy said, the agricultural background, and seems very consistent. It also seems like most of the considerations in the donation gift policy seems to be consistent with this request. And it's most recently been done, you stated Roe Park. I think it's consistent with something that has been done in the past.
I agree.
Lori, I see your hand. Oh, hold on, Tony. The mayor had her hand up.
I was just going to say that, it also gives a directional or a locating sense as well. If you're in, if you're referencing Pickard Park, then it's like, oh yeah, that's in Pickard Estates. I mean, it also seems very functional, right?
Becky, I think you had tried to.
I just said I agree.
And then I saw Tony had a hand up, I believe.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I will say is I think it makes sense for all the reasons that everybody said. I feel like the donation gift, that kind of a policy, in my mind, is more applicable when it's not an obligatory donation as a part of a development. And so I don't know, that's a whole probably other conversation about naming something when they had to give this land because of the development that was coming in. And so again, for lack of better names, and all the reasons were said, I think it's a good idea, but I just, it's not as exciting to me as a parks member when they had to give the land to us as part of the development, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Deb?
I agree with Tony and with the other speakers for the reasons that Tony gave.
This is Lester. I agree. Let's vote.
Somebody
We'll
like
need
to
a
make a motion?
Motion to vote. Motion to approve.
Do we have a
This is
second?
Deb, second.
Thank you, Deb. I will do roll call. Bartelt,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Dearth,
Aye.
Royal,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Millette,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
and Stevenson. Motion passed 9-0. Thank you, everyone.
All right, moving on to new bit number 3. Discuss the concept plan for the Menomonee Park Beach Bathhouse. And thank you for the picture from a long time ago. It's fun to see how long it's been there. Break some background.
Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen again so I can pull it up for the public.
Aren't those suits fun?
So yes, as Amy said, I wanted to make sure and include this this picture, which was from the early 1900s. And as we had, the Parks Board had toured the building last summer, I believe it was. I'd have to go back and look, but we had talked about trying to retain as much of the original building or building shell as possible. In discussions, we had thought it'd be nice to try to go back to some of this original feel and look and design of the building. So we worked with T.R. Carroll's, come up with concept idea to share. So this, if you recall, also we've had at least some preliminary discussion of potentially working with a partnership with the Otter Street Fishing Club on some potential storage of the ice bridges and some of their equipment that they use to maintain the ice roads, and other things for the public to get out on the ice, whether it's for ice fishing, skating, ATVs, sturgeon spearing, whatever that might be. So they incorporated some of those ideas that would potentially work. So here's a view. To be a view more from the water side, and then more from the Merritt Street, showing the backside as well as the potential for some storage of equipment on the south end of the building. So it's really get some input from the board if we're going in the right direction. If it's a good idea, you guys like the idea of trying to go back in history and try to retain as much of the building and the bones of the structure as we can. So I'm open for some comments and your thoughts.
I have a couple of questions, Ray. First of all, in the historic picture, it's not quite very easy to see. I guess I'm not a real big fan of like asphalt shingles and was kind of wondering, were those original roofing materials like clay tile, or would we be looking at potential like metal roof, or would it be just more budgetarily conducive to going with standard asphalt? Number one. The second question is, with the storage, we don't quite see how much square footage is being added to the bathhouse, and the concept, it almost seems as if the building would be the same size as what's there, but maybe I'm not seeing that correctly. And with those drive up overhead doors, what kind of safety mechanisms might there be to prevent, kids from, running through that drive up area from the beach?
So your first question dealing with the shingles, without looking back, my guess is going to be that they were asphalt shingles, but I couldn't tell you for sure. And what we would put on any new facility would all be determined as we go through further refining of the design and coming up with budget costs. And so we haven't gotten to that point yet. It was more of the concept showing you, is this something that you would like us to move forward onto the next step? I think as far as the overhead doors go, again, we haven't gotten into any type of detail as far as, security and those types of things, but we would work all that in so that people couldn't drive up here without being the individuals that should be getting into the building. In other areas and along certain areas, we put collapsible bollards. So essentially the bollard is up, they have a key and they can pull the bollard down when they need to get it out and put it back up when they're done. As far as your question on the size of the building, I have told them as we've been going through this process and when we were out on site, it was roughly about, I think, like 25 to 30 feet addition that we would be putting on the building. So that is, again, built into this conceptual design, as there would be an extension of the building as we had discussed when we were on site. I think that covered all your questions, Mayor. Is there something else?
Are there bathrooms and
Yes.
still showers or not?
Those are all things that, yeah, will be determined as we get into the interior building design. We'd have to plan for some type of showers, restrooms, obviously, changing area, and whether those are individual areas as in the existing building. Is it something we look at more of having family changing areas? Those types of things would all be the next step into the design to take a look at how we handle that within the facility. But to answer your question, Becky, yes, there would be both.
All right. So what you're at, this is Lester. So what you're asking for right now is just overall the way it looks from the outdoors. So adding 20 to 30 feet on for those parking, for those garage doors, and then just renovating and redoing kind of the building that exists there already. Correct?
That is correct. We're more at the conceptual phase, I guess, in your idea, or the idea of trying to go back in history and something in that look.
Right. So we're talking about kind of working off of what we have now instead of tearing it.
That's correct.
It's very nostalgic, and I really like it.
Obviously, the windows would not be see-through windows. There's different types of windows we'd be looking at for all those areas, but I think it would present some opportunity for some natural lighting, as well as getting back to that historic feel of the original building. So I see Deb has her hand up.
I like it. I like the partnership because it is for things that people use during the winter. So it's actually using the building for multiple seasons. It does not matter to me whether you keep the historic. I know we need a building there, and I understand the shared space of it. And so I just hope we go forward with whatever makes the most sense that can be accomplished sooner rather than later.
Anybody else got a strong feeling or any opinion? Scott, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, from a 30,000-foot view, conceptually, I like it. I like the historical nature of it, trying to match the way it looked originally. It looks sort of, to me, if I remember, kind of minimalistic, what was done to the outside, mostly aesthetically in that. So, but I like trying to match it with history, and from a conceptual standpoint, I think it matches.
Yeah, as far as the existing brick on the building, again, most of that is going to remain. There'd be obviously some repair work to be done. And then they've already started looking at some potential bricks that match up fairly well in areas that we would put on some addition. And also you have to remember there's going to be some walls that we're going to remove to put the expansion on. So those bricks would be repurposed as well and put back into the building. So most of the brickwork is going to be original yet. Unless I hear somebody say they don't like the idea, we'll probably start. Go ahead, Mayor. I see your hands up.
Okay, just to kind of open up a little bit of a can of worms here. I'm just kind of curious. Was there any discussion at all about the potential for like a breezeway in the middle? Where I'm trying to think, is it at Pollock Pool? I seem to remember being in a space that had like kind of a breezeway where it was open in the middle, between the gender sides. And I guess that's the other piece of it. Maybe this is a little too detailed at this point, whether or not there would be like any addressing of the gender neutral kind of thing.
It is a little early. I would say if we were going to do some kind of a breezeway, like you use for an example at the pool, we'd be looking at increasing the footprint of where we'd need to build, just because you're taking away the space that we have as usable space. So I would say that that's something we wouldn't look at here. Without getting into more of the design details, I'm seeing us do something similar here like we did at the Four Seasons building and having more family changing areas, gender neutral areas, which may help us cut down on the number of showers and other facilities that we might need. So those are just some of the thoughts that I had as I looked at the original or this design now. So definitely something we could take a look at as we get into further details on design though. All right, unless I hear I don't like it, we'll start looking at how we can achieve moving on to the designing and getting some of those other questions answered. So thank you.
All right, moving on to number 4. So this is just kind of more, Ray and I chatted a little bit about, having the board meetings virtual or in person. This is kind of to check the pulse of how everybody's feeling. Granted, we know we have a lot going on, so that this is more just a check-in than anything else on what people's thoughts are about virtual or in person.
On a day like today, virtual.
Keep
I
it,
was all,
keep it this way until May, roughly. Sorry, go ahead, Becky.
I was all up for back to being in person until COVID increased yet again. So I'm for virtual until this goes down a little bit more again.
Yep, I agree with you just said there, Ray. Let's keep it virtual till spring. Let's see what we can relook into it then. So
I will share that some of the other boards and commissions are having the same conversation, and I think some of those that are meeting in person may start looking at virtual for another month or two. So as staff, I think it makes sense. If the boards will go ahead, Deb, before I keep going.
Tony had his hand raised too. I'm supportive virtual. I got to tell you, it's easy to be sitting here in my recliner chair. So at least for the winter months and with COVID, I thank you for it.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I'm with Deb. I mean, this is something that the staff would have to decide eventually, but I think we're getting the hang of this virtual thing. I don't mind continuing this as long as we want to go virtual. I think it's nice. So
Could I suggest we do it February and March, and let's have it back on the agenda in March and see how things look? Is that agreeable? Okay.
great.
We'll go that route. Thank you.
All right, now on to staff reports. Ray,
All right.
you're up first.
I'm going to keep it brief, hopefully. Just wanted to give you an update on a couple items. The first one is the Menomonee Park, the drainage issue up on the trail on the north end. If you recall, that project was included in our 2021 CIP. I did work with our engineering department. We had to get them out on site to do some topographical surveying before we looked at getting any drain tile or any improvements in the ground. Unfortunately, their staff went out and did some surveying, and along the trail and other parts of the park, we're finding that the ground level is actually lower in some areas than the water level. So potentially if we put drain tile or some drains in, there may be times during the year where there might be backflow and surging back into the park. So as we started to see that results coming back from the engineering, and they started voicing some concerns, we stepped back. Engineering department has had a number of retirements and other things going on, so they are currently short on staff. But we did meet recently, and we're looking at an option to deal with this. In addition to putting some drain tile in areas that we know would drain, we're looking at some other options for the trail, potentially increasing the height of the trail and looking at an alternative. So we're looking at alternatives with our engineering at this time, and we're looking to do something in 2022. Hopefully weather dependent. It might be something we can do in spring before the summer gets too busy. So I wanted you to know it wasn't lost on us. It wasn't a project that we forgot about. It's by the time they did surveying and got out on the site and shared the information, and again, us meeting to trying to come up with a plan. So it's still there and we're working on it. The other update I wanted to give was on the Four Seasons building at Lakeshore Park. If you recall, last month we met and the council ultimately decided that $300,000 from the Menomonee Park Pratt Trail road reconstruction project would be used for the Four Seasons building. There were a number of council members asking about potential funding to keep the Pratt Trail project moving forward. And I know that the city manager and the finance director have some options that they're looking at on how they can continue to keep that project in the CIP. So they're asking us to be patient, as they know that the board here wanted to retain that project as long as possible. And if needed, use some of the funding for our parks building if necessary. So they did share the finance director and city manager with the council. They're looking at some options on how to get that project done without occurring additional borrowing. So stay tuned, and I will keep you posted on that as well. So with the Four Seasons building, I had a brief meeting with Cardinal Construction, their manager, this morning, and weather dependent, they're looking at potentially starting in March. So we will be looking at coordination of the demolition of the existing maintenance building that's ending in Pinocqua with their start date. So right now we're planning on mid-March, and we'll see how the weather cooperates with us. So you'll should be able to see some movement down there, late winter, early spring, weather dependent. So we're excited to see that happening. Any questions on those at all? All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ray. Chad?
Okay, thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2022. Couple good things coming up right now for us. I think we finally have good ice down at the Roe Park Ice Rink that we had to defer our program last week, Friday, to this week due to some conditional items, and plus the temperatures didn't work with us too well. So hopefully that event will take place this week. I'm hoping to make a call on Wednesday morning. We're still doing a little rebuilding. And hoping that Wednesday morning we can open that facility up here for the public for use while the conditions are good. So that's a exciting thing to happen for the winter. Second thing I just had on a report is that we're going through the process right now of starting to move things out of our Parks Department building over to the street or central garage cold storage facility. We're taking a month of time for certain areas, hoping that everything stays on track for us to be out of the facility by April. Early April, so things will start with a tear down on our facility there. So those are the big things here, besides our normal maintenance items that we're working on here with the seasons the way they are.
Thank you, Chad. Bill?
Thank you. I have an update on the annual pruning schedule that we're working on right now. We're currently pruning the street trees in an area north of East Irving and east of Grand Street, and then the whole north side north of Murdoch. So there's approximately 2,000 trees that we'll be visiting over the winter months and early spring. So that's going along pretty well. We're also dealing with, continuing to deal with emerald ash borer mitigation. We've had a couple contractors working with us to assist us with some of that work. And currently we have completed all of the removals of ash on the west side of 41. And we do have a substantial amount of trees that we have currently under treatment out there as well. So those, of course, we hadn't removed, but the next contractor will be working on an area, I call it kind of the near west side. So basically an area west of Sawyer Street 241. So that work will be commencing approximately mid-February. So there's approximately 200 trees in that zone. So we'll at least be able to get out a lot of those ash trees in that territory. And then consequently on the areas that our in-house staff is working on pruning, we'll be doing some ash removals through that zone as well during the course of our work through that territory. So everything's moving along pretty well. Obviously, we'd like to get it all done at once, but you know, there's such a volume of work there. It's been taking a lot of coordination and effort by multiple parties to get that work done. But everything's moving along fairly well, so we're happy with that. So if anyone has any questions, be happy to help you with that.
Thank you, Bill. Jenny?
All right. Well, good to see everybody, and hopefully everybody is staying healthy. Oh, well, look at that. Thanks, Ray. So coming up here, we have some fun, exciting winter events that we're going to be doing here. So this coming Saturday, we have our Cozy Cookies and Cocoa, an event at the Senior Center building where everyone can come in their PJs, and we have all kinds of fun family games for them to play. Also have a bunch of crafts that we're doing. The Oshkosh Public Library will be there doing their winter reading program, getting people signed up. We have cookies donated, snowflake cookies for the kids to decorate snowflake cookies and sprinkle them. So lots of fun stuff for that event coming up this Saturday. And then in February, we have our Let's Glow Crazy dance party. That one, the last time we did it was, well, we haven't done these events for 2 years now. It was a great event. It was the first time we had done it, just really well received, lots of fun. We have a fun live DJ who keeps the kids entertained. So really looking forward to that one as well on the 11th of February. And then we will have our St. Patty's Day bingo on March 19th from 1 to 3 at the Senior Center as well. That one's at the North Building. So all these events, we really try to gear towards, doing events that are intergenerational. So a lot of them, grandparents will bring their grandkids to the event. The event here on Saturday, everyone likes free cocoa and coffee and just playing games together. So again, hoping some, grandparents bring the grandkids out. Bingo is always a great one too, where everyone loves to play bingo together. So it's a lot of fun to see all different generations come together on these family events. So they are free. They're sponsored by Cellcom. So we are very thankful to them for those 3 winter events that are free for the public to attend. So, and
Hey,
then moving
Jen.
on to, I'm sorry.
So anyone can go to those?
Anyone. Yep.
Good.
So I'm hoping to see you there, Becky.
Okay, I'm only coming if they're playing disco.
Oh, well, hey, I think our DJ can do that. I think he can. So, any other questions about those ones at the Senior Center that we're doing? No? Okay. And then like Chad mentioned, our ice rink is just a little bit, didn't quite work with us for the event last week. So that's been postponed to this Friday night. So we have this great collaboration that we work with the Oshkosh YMCA, the Oshkosh Recreation Department, the foundation and the OCVB, everyone kind of working together to bring these events to the ice rink. So you'll see that one has been rescheduled for this Friday night, our superhero night. And the concessions that evening will be the Oshkosh United Way will be getting the proceeds from concessions on this Friday night. Just let me bring this up here since it's having an issue. And then on the 21st, we have a luau night with DJ Skip. That night, the concessions will be to the Oshkosh YMCA. So we'll be giving away lays and all kinds of fun disco luau stuff that night. February 4th, we're doing Winter Olympics. So we'll have some fun different Winter Olympics. We're going to do some ice bowling and some cross-country skiing demonstrations, and of course the ice skating itself. So that'll be a fun night of Winter Olympics. And then finishing up on the 18th with our Mardi Gras event, which will be a really fun one too. So those are all outside at the ice rink, and hopefully weather will, cooperate for us on those. So again, a huge thank always to Dr. Eric's Skate Club for providing the trailer with all the skates for everybody. So people can use those skates free of charge. If you know of anybody that needs to do, community service hours or just likes to volunteer, we do have a link on our parks page for looking for volunteers for those ice skating events, especially. In order to have Dr. Eric's skate trailer there, we have to have volunteers there. So Fridays, Saturday, and Sundays, from 4 to 7. We're looking for volunteers to man that trailer for the ice skate so people can come down and use those to skate.
So do we need any kind of special orientation for volunteering for those dates and the skating timeframes?
Nope, we have a binder that we have kind of put together. So like when the volunteer comes, Lisa Nubbing from the YMCA works with the volunteers. So she sends out an email. We have a little code, a little password on the trailer to get into the trailer. And then kind of all the instructions are there, kind of how to do things and how to open up, how to close up. So definitely looking for, if we don't have volunteers, we can't offer the skates those nights. So the rink will of course be open all the time, but we won't be able to offer the skates if we don't have the volunteers to man that skate trailer. So, so otherwise, like Chad said, hopefully this week things will be up and running there. So we're ready for Friday night as well. So, and the other fun winter thing, Flaky Francine is of course back, and she's hiding in our different parks. It's nice to do that, just to really showcase all of our parks and all the projects we work on. A lot of people aren't familiar with how many parks we have and what kind of projects we do. So Stacy is awesome at putting together clues for her to be hiding in our different parks and people to kind of find her. And once they find her, they turn her into our office and they pick out a prize, and then we rehide her again. So just kind of something little fun for people to get out and enjoy the fresh air if it's ever warm enough to do that. So, so that's kind of what January, February, March will bring us. So again, if anyone's looking to, volunteer, definitely check out the links and different volunteer opportunities we have, or if grand kiddos that have to do it for school or kids or however they can help. So any questions at all?
What does she look like?
Francine?
Yeah.
Flaky?
She's on our Facebook website, or if you go to the Oshkosh Parks Department Facebook page,
Okay.
Becky, they did post last week a picture of what Flaky looks like. Jenny had some fun jazzing her up, and
she's got nice red lips.
Red
Big
lips, full red lips.
Tonight they should be blue.
Yeah, right.
Her eyes are blue appropriately, so.
Yes. She's kind of cute. Yep.
Can I just ask how the name Flaky Francine came up?
That would be just me putting things together, honestly.
Yeah.
Just throwing things out there and brainstorming, Lori.
Yeah, we have Ernie the elf, and then Flaky.
And she's a snowflake.
Yeah, and
she
she's
is
a snowflake.
Like
so
she's
flaky.
literally a snowflake with
Yes.
eyes and lips pasted onto her. So that's where the flaky part comes from.
I was trying to bring a picture of her up here quick to show you. So yeah, so we just have fun, and people, like I said, the kids, they have a lot of fun going out and finding. So I don't know if you can. It's gonna not work.
No.
Yeah, go on our Facebook page. So she's cute, but kids have fun finding her. And in December they did Ernie the elf that they found and brought him in. So just some fun little things to get people out and enjoying our parks when it's cold out. So, any other questions that anyone has? All right. Well, that's it for now. For January, February, and March.
Thank you, Jenny, for the update and all the great events that you have going on. All right. Is there any other business?
Nope.
All right. Then I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah, this is Deb.
Becky beat you to the chase on that one, Deb. All right. Motion to adjourn. Roll call. Bartelt.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Durth.
Aye.
Royal.
Aye.
Martin.
Can I just say thank you to the staff? Oh my goodness, you are, wow, working hard. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's never an off season at the Parks Department, Deb. Metz.
Aye.
Millette. Palmieri.
Aye.
And Stevenson.
Aye.
All right, motion passed 9-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a
Okay,
good night.
everyone, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.